speaker now. So I'm your TechSoup Connect Ontario chapter host uh, um, for TechSoup Canada, and TechSoup TechSoup Connect, I guess, is a global network for Tech for Good meetups. So TechSoup, if you aren't aware of them, is a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits get, implement, and use tech effectively. And we are a global network, so we have meetups all over the world. And this one here that I host is here in Ontario, Canada. But I've had speakers from all over actually, and Matt joined us from, you're in Hong Kong, right? Yeah. Um, so we're from all over the world. So some of the things that we value, we welcome everyone. We put our community first because we're all here to support each other. We build stronger nonprofits through technology, and that's why I love to share as well. And we love for people to participate so we can all learn from each other. So if you have something to share or teach us, especially technology related, let me know if you're interested in presenting anything. I'm always looking for speakers and presenters, and we always treat each other with kindness and respect as well. So TechSoup Canada, you can find them at TechSoup.ca. Brings you a whole bunch of technology at prices you can afford. And what's missing from this slide is also Google Workspace. In order to validate to get the free Google for nonprofits, you would have to go through TechSoup. And there's a whole bunch of other discounts you can get through TechSoup as well. And as I mentioned, we would love your help. I'm always looking for people to host events. So if you know somebody in the tech space who might have something great to share with nonprofits, please let me know. And if you have any other ideas of what you'd like to see, please let me know. I do my best to try to find speakers on certain topics. And I know Airtable was one that was highly requested when we had a previous event, which is why I sourced out Matt to come out and help us. A little bit about me. I am your host for the Ontario chapter. I have over 20 years of experience implementing all sorts of systems for nonprofits as well as small and large organizations and government organizations as well. I am Google Cloud certified, and I do Google Workspace implementations, but I also do a whole bunch of other system implementations, including Zoho One and Microsoft, although I don't focus as much on Microsoft, but I can help with quite a few things there as well, and a whole bunch of other systems. What I really love to do is help bring people, processes, and technology together so that people and businesses uh, nonprofits, anybody can work smarter, not harder. So sometimes it's something as simple as, helping somebody figure out how to organize a template for something to full out implementation or optimization or automation. I obviously need to update this slide because we're no longer Toronto organizer. It's Ontario for TechSoup Connect. And I am also the president for a nonprofit myself. I am the president of the One Parent Family Association of Canada. And I think that brings me to the end of my little deck, and there we go. And now I would like to pass it along to Matt, who is here to help us learn more about Airtable. So Matt, I'll hand it over to you to do a little intro, tell us a bit about yourself, and I'm really excited for your presentation.
Sure, thanks, Sandra. Really appreciate the introduction and the invitation to come and talk to you guys. Yeah, I'm Matt Bourn. I'm currently based in Hong Kong, clearly not from Hong Kong, but based here currently. Originally from the UK, and for the past few years, I've been working with businesses and organizations to help them implement no code or low code tools, Airtable being one of them, which we work with extensively, and how that then leads on to kind of better organization and automation ultimately of your business needs. So very happy to be here and share my love of Airtable with you guys. So I can go ahead and share the screen, right, Sandra?
You should be able to. Yep, I gave you co-host access.
Let's give it a try. Okay, so if you just let me know you can see the slide deck, okay?
Yep, I can see it.
Great.
Looks good.
Um, okay, so I guess if anybody has questions, then please go ahead and put them in the chat for now. Hopefully there'll be time at the end to address any questions that you might have. But hopefully as we go through, we'll answer some of your questions as you go. So that's the plan, at least. Okay, so let's jump in. First slide. Okay, so today, and apologies, I'm not looking at the camera, I have another screen here. So today I'm going to give you an introduction to Airtable, a brief overview of kind of what it is, what it does, talk about why you might want to use it over and above a spreadsheet-based solution, which is obviously very common. And then we'll go through a quick basic build as an example. I put together an event volunteer base that might be of interest to those of you in the nonprofit and charity space to help you kind of organize those events and keep up to date with those. Many moving parts. And then I'm going to touch on some slightly more advanced stuff just to kind of give you an understanding of the capabilities that Airtable has. We only have a short time today to talk about an overview, but just to kind of whet your appetite. So I'm not sure of everybody's level or familiarity with Airtable, so I'm going to keep it kind of at a fundamental level for now. But please connect in the future if you'd like to learn more. All right. So Airtable is a platform that's been around for, I think, probably 6 or 7 years now. And we've been using it, or I've been using it, basically since it came out. It was a real find at the time, and has been very, very helpful in previous jobs, and of course in our agency now. And what Airtable is essentially an easy to learn tool to create a relational database. And the benefit over that from something like a spreadsheet, which we'll kind of work through some examples, is that it gives you the opportunity to kind of organize your information and link it all together. So a relational databases, being able to build relationships between pieces of information without having to kind of duplicate. So why might you want to use Airtable? Well, I guess the best description, the most common one, is that Airtable is a spreadsheet on steroids. So what normally people mean by that is that it's something that's very easy to use. It has a familiar spreadsheet type layout, so it's not an alien kind of platform to dive into. It has that relational database functionality to it to be able to link information together very easily. There's real-time collaboration, as you would find with something like Google Sheets, but within the context of Airtable, so you can tag other collaborators in your base and message them in context of what you're doing. There are also hugely powerful automation capabilities built in and native. There are lots of integration opportunities by connecting Airtable to other apps that you may use. We'll touch on that a little bit later. There are visualization capabilities, so charts and summaries and all of those sorts of things to help create dashboards. And they have a growing number of very powerful native apps within the Airtable ecosystem itself. So we'll touch on that as well a little bit later, but just to kind of give you some reasons why you might choose Airtable over and above a traditional spreadsheet solution. And one that I like to share is that you want to replicate your data, not duplicate it. So those of you that have many spreadsheets that are probably very similar, you have a different view for a client, a different view for management, different view for yourself, and you're kind of having to duplicate information all over the place, and it's hard to keep it all up to date. So Airtable will help you manage that process by replication, not by duplication. Very important point, but we'll touch on that a little bit more. So now we're going to jump into it. I'll walk you through a few initial things about Airtable first, and then we'll dive into the base itself. And we'll cover in that giving you some pointers about how to prepare your data if you did want to transfer your information over to Airtable. The transfer itself, how you might go about formatting that data, and then linking it all together to really take advantage of the power. And then we'll go through a fully built out example of an event volunteer base with some little Easter eggs in there of some slightly more advanced functions that just might be of interest for you. And I'll give you a very brief introduction to the automations features and the app functionality within Airtable as well. So there's quite a lot to cover. I'll jump right in and let's give it a try. So I'm switching a table now. Hopefully you'll be able to see a Google Sheet. Let me know if for some reason you can't. So what I put together here is an example of, I guess, something that may look very familiar to you. We have a simple Google Sheet with 5 different types of events that we're managing, but I would imagine there would be many, many more events to keep track of. And there's commonality between all of them. But the beauty of a spreadsheet is that you can structure the information however you would like. You can have it in a row, you can just use a single cell, very, very flexible. So in this case, we've got the important data points here, organizer, date, location, volunteers that have signed up, okay? But if we hop into another example, obviously the event information is different, but some of the volunteers are the same. So how do we keep track of that without having to constantly duplicate information? So I'm going to show you kind of an example of how you might prepare data that will be in a similar structure to this. So let's look at our organizers first. Everything's on one line, which is a great start. And Airtable has a structure which works in, it looks at its information in records. So a row in a spreadsheet is referred to as a record. So everything in this whole row would be referred to as a record. We can keep going and going for as long as you want to. A column is referred to as a field. So all of the information in the column or the field must be the same type within the entire column. So we can't have one cell as one type, one cell as another type like we can within Excel at the moment. So a slightly different fact to that. The other thing is that the first column is always what's referred to as the primary field. So we want to make this sort of as descriptive as possible to help us. So here we have a full name, first name, last name, email, phone number, and we've got them all nice and neatly in records with a nice descriptive title at the top. So far, so good. Then in events, so if I just hop back here. So our event tab previously was a little unstructured, nice and easy to use, not a problem in a spreadsheet, but we need to do a little bit of work to prepare that if we were going to transfer it. So again, our primary field, giving it the title of our event, obviously the date, location, address, etc. And then we have an organizer field here. And we're going to use that organizer field to automatically link that information back to our organizer table. So at the moment, we've got the organizers here, and Maggie has two events, and this will link back to this information. So I'll show you how we do that shortly. And then for volunteers, we have our full list of all of our volunteers, obviously the usual data points. And then under our events section, this is what we're going to use to link all of our information to our events to be able to identify these really quickly and easily. So where people are going to multiple events, we can just separate that with a comma, and that will tell Airtable when the time is right how we want to separate that data out. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So depending on how big your spreadsheet is, it can take a little while to format your data. But this structure is going to really help us make it a quick and easy transfer. All right, so let's set something up. So first of all, we're going to download a CSV file, which just gives us all of our information in a really easy to use and processable way. And we're going to do that for each of our tables here. And then finally our events. Okay, we've got everything we need. Now we're going to hop over to what would be our Airtable account. As you can see, I have many in here, but we're going to add a new base. And we could start with a template. There are many templates available just to get you started. Today, we're going to start from scratch. And that will create us a base. We'll give it a name. Event import. We can choose a color. Let's have a nice, today's a pink day. Pink. And then we could choose a little logo if we wanted to. Like so. And Airtable will automatically create us a table and some default fields, but we don't need that at the moment. So we are going to add a new table, and we're going to import from CSV. There are various options for us to import, by the way. We can just connect our account together, and then we can import information directly from Excel or from Apple, or Trello if you've used that before. So there are some nice options there. But today we're just going to use a CSV because it's nice and easy. And we're going to find the information. Okay, and we'll import events first. Okay, simple as that. It will have a go at guessing what the field types are. We're just going to turn that off because we can change that in a minute. Okay, and all of our event information is brought in. We can remove this, we don't need it. Let's rename it so we know what we're doing. And then we can add a new.
Can you zoom in, please? It's a little hard to read.
Sorry, apologies.
Thank you.
Sure. How's that? So
I was speaking on behalf of someone that put a message in the chat, so maybe they should. Yeah, thanks. That works.
Great. Yeah, it's hard to see the chat when I'm sharing the screen. Thank you.
Sorry, that's my bad. I wasn't keeping an eye on it.
So let's create another one. Again, we'll add our information. This time we'll have organizers. I'm going to switch that off. I'll show you how to change it in a minute. And those are our organizers. And then our last table here. This is our volunteers. Turn that off, import that. Okay, we're all set. Everything's in. So you can see if you prepare your data really thoroughly, then it's a very, very easy process. And I'm going to show you a couple of things, and then we can move on to our built-out version. So in here, let's go over to events. You can see that it's all very nicely structured here already. And we can add a new record. I'll show you that shortly. We can change the field type. So let's say we want a single line text here. We could change the date to an actual date field. if we go to volunteers, because let me know that there's an email address, we can change this to email, and it changes the field type. And there are many, many different types of fields that will give you specific controls, which you can't do obviously within a spreadsheet. So let's link these up. So I think let's first of all link our organizers and our events. So we're going to do this by changing the field type to a linked field. And we want to link our events to our organizers. Could one event have multiple organizers? I guess it could, but for now we'll leave it. Okay, and you see that that format has changed straight away. So if we hop over to our organizers now, it's now linked to their event. So Maggie has 2 events linked to her. If we click on one, you can see that it's connecting us immediately to events, even though we're inside the organizer's reference. And you could have access to all of the information in here. All right, so simple as that. And we'll do the same with volunteers. So we're going to use our events field. I'm going to change it to link. And we want to link it to events, includes in the name. And it's all done. And to prove it, go to events. And there are all of our volunteers brought in. So one of the cool things we can do now is we can use one of our special field types, and we're going to count up how many volunteers we've got. There. So if somebody is added or removed, this number will update automatically. So keep really easy eye on how many volunteers we've got for each location, which volunteers are going to which, some are going to one, some are going to many, but it's all linked back to their individual record. And of course, our organizers can do the same. So now if we want to add a new event, it's really easy to do. I now have to think of the city in Ontario. Oops. Let's have another city. Okay, and then we put in our date and our location and so on and so on and so on. We can link it to our organizer. Let's say Heather is going to do it this time. We linked Heather to it. Let's check that. Go to our organizers. And Heather is now linked to the Ottawa Soup Kitchen as well. Okay, and that's as simple as it is. And it's all connected up now. Maybe we had some volunteers already, or we wanted to add a new one. We can do anything like that from here. So maybe there's my favorite name in here. These are all randomly created names, by the way, but my favorite, I think, probably is Dee Dee Dunkelberger, which is objectively hilarious. So let's have her in there for now to get us started. But you can see how quick and easy that was now. Very, very simple to do. And now we have all of that information in one place, all transferred, and now we can do more or less whatever we want with it. So far so good. So now I'm going to hop over to a base that I prepared earlier, and I've added in a few extra parts here. So we have, I've created a formula field here to help us, bring in more relevant information. I have added, let's go to volunteers. So I've added some lookup information here, which you can do because the records are now linked. So if we want to look up a piece of information in another location in the events tab, we can just look it up. So we're bringing in the date of the event as a raw piece of information, the address, which didn't exist in this table until we linked it. So you can start to see the power as it goes through. And I'm going to show you just a couple of other things that are possible now. So in our events tab, we've got all of our raw data, and we can visualize that in various ways. So there is a calendar function, which now we can see in a really easy to understand way when all of these items, all of these events are going to happen. And if we were to drag this, we can move it around. You know, there's something happens, a date changes, gets put off, postponed, cancelled, whatever. You know, we can handle it, and it will be reflected in the data. And because that data is linked to other items, it was reflected there immediately as well. Okay, so it becomes a super powerful tool when you don't need to replicate your information as you go around. You don't need to duplicate. You can replicate.
Matt, does an event calendar get created automatically for as long as you have dates in your columns?
Not automatically, but down here we have different event types. So
Okay.
event for all things. Sorry, this is a calendar for all things, but we can then create another one, and we could just filter. So say we only wanted to see, excuse me, is it location or is it address? Let's choose name. So for this one, we only want to see things in Toronto. So this is a calendar for Toronto now, because it's only going to show us Toronto. All right. So some various different types of views. I'm going to show you a few more. Organizers, nothing special going on there. But for volunteers, we have a few different types of views. We have a card view, which just visualizes the information in a slightly easier to understand way. You know, you can take a snapshot of each card of each volunteer or whatever data point you're using, no problem. So just a different way of visualizing. We have what's called a Kanban style. So maybe people need to confirm. And at the moment, Argentina, we can move her into a waiting response. And if we go to her data, she's now been tagged as a waiting response. But let's say we're in this view now, and actually she can't make it anymore. And so we go back to our Kanban view, and now she's been moved into the correct pile. And if we move her back into uncategorized, there. So everything updates regardless of where you make the change. Okay, that's the power of the system now, because you have all the information. You're just visualizing it, manipulating it in a different way. So there's another tab here which I've created called donations, which I'll save as a little surprise for you. So we also have a form capability. So these are all of our fields that we have within the volunteers table, but we can use them to create a form to make things easier for us. And we can use this form if we go to open form. Airtable is going to create a URL for us that we can share anywhere, public URL. So this is dedicated for this form. You can share it as part of your marketing activity. You know, you could give it to, you know, to make a QR code and people could scan it and still get to the same website, the same form. You know, whatever it is that you would do to kind of drum up interest in volunteering at one of your events. So let's do it. I need to think of a famous person from Ontario. One of the Ryans, I think Ryan Gosling was born in London, but this is my email address, not his, sadly. I don't have his email address. He wouldn't give it to me. So we're going to go through here, and we can choose here which event we want to go to. So you can see that the Ottawa one has also been added. And well, he's from London. Maybe he wants to clean up London. And we submit that. Okay, and this gives us a nice little message. This branding can all be removed, by the way. And now if we go to our volunteer data, we can see that Ryan has been added at the bottom here for the London cleanup, and he's all linked in to that particular event, and he's all set. So keep an eye on this field down here, because what I've done also with this is I've set an automation to create a confirmation page and email it to Ryan so that he knows and he has all the information and everything's nice and squared up. So it takes a couple of minutes for that to trigger. And whilst we're waiting for that, I'm just going to hop back into tell you a bit more about Airtable itself. So as far as pricing goes, they have already very competitive pricing, but they do also have a non-profit pricing structure, which I think is definitely worth applying for. All of these features, the Pro plan has just got so many more additional features with the apps that you can use, the amount of records that you can have in the base, and so on and so forth. So it's very, very powerful solution, and you can check this out. I'll share this link with the. I'll share my presentation, and there's a few links in there that you can go and check things out. So it's pretty competitive as it is now, but it will be even better, I think, through the non-profit that they offer the 50% off the monthly cost, which is a fairly generous discount. So share all of these links with you, and you can check that out when you're ready. So let's go back and see how we're doing here. Okay, nothing's popped in yet, but we'll keep an eye on that. Let me just check. Let's see if there's.
There are a couple questions if you want those while you wait.
Yeah, let's have a couple of quick questions.
There's so Fash was asking about importing data from other places. So it sounds like they need to have people input data every week into an online form. Will Airtable automatically update it?
Will Airtable update the form?
So I'm not sure I'm not sure where your source data is coming from, Fash, but I believe, and I think you were showing me this, Matt, that if you connected to, say, a Google spreadsheet, if you update the Google spreadsheet, for example, would it automatically update Airtable with that information?
Yes, there is a sync function as part of Airtable solution. So I probably need a few more details to give you a comprehensive answer, but
Yeah.
Theoretically, yes. Or if not, you could certainly do something like that with Zapier, which I'll touch on very briefly in a moment. So, but I think the answer to that is going to be yes.
Yeah, I think Matt pretty much can find a way to do anything with automation and integrations. It's just a
We'll
matter
see
of
about
digging
that.
deeper.
We'll see about that. But
One other
so,
question is,
yeah,
can
go ahead.
Notion do what Airtable does?
Notion is a great platform. A lot of its capability is relational database capability. They've only recently brought out access to their API, which means up until this point, automating anything within Notion has been very difficult. I'm not a huge Notion user at the moment. I'm more of an Airtable guy, but certainly I can see some good use cases for Notion. I think it's not as well connected, and some of the integrations are still being developed. So there's probably a little bit more heavy lifting, but there may be certain advantages over Airtable for your individual use case. So I'm not gonna be down on Notion, but I would say also check out Coda.io. Maybe you can put that in the chat.
Sure.
As a Notion alternative, which is, in my view, much more powerful. So if you're thinking about Notion, also check out coda.io. All right, let me jump back in here then. So if we look at the attachments field here, Ryan has got his attachment. And I'm going to pull in my email here. Hopefully you can see an Outlook now. And it sent us an email. And this has all been powered through Zapier. Okay, so I'll explain how that happens shortly. But it'll send anybody who signs up. Hi, Ryan, thanks for signing up to volunteer. We can't wait to meet you for the London cleanup. This is the address, blah, blah, blah. And if we go into the attachment, and we've automatically created this document using a system called Document, which I'll talk about shortly. And I am a terrible designer, so you can make it look as beautiful as you want to. But then it's brought in all of our variable fields. So thanks for making a difference, Ryan. This is what you're helping us with. This is the date. This is the address. And I've also added in here a little Easter egg for you, which is a donation link. So I'm going to just click on this one and show you very quickly. So this is using a platform called Stripe, which some of you may be familiar with as a payment processor. And one of the features is that we can create a link for specific amounts. They are working on variable amounts as well, so they could choose how much to donate, and you're not kind of forcing them down a road. And it just makes it very easy for you to include a link in any of your communications to help with your donations as well. So I'm just going to fill this out really quickly, and I'm going to show you how powerful this is. So if you remember this bit that I'm doing, okay, because you guys are going to have a go in a minute. So 4242, just keep doing 42 until you can't fill it in. That's like a fake credit card number. Put in any date in the future, and you can just put 123, and I'll have Matt, and we're going to pay that. Okay, so our payment has been processed, and if we go into donations, there we go. That literally just came in. It came in faster than I could actually get to the tab. And this is being done by some automation, which I'll show you in a moment. Just to show you, I guess, some more advanced features. Now you've got all of your information in here, how you can link things together. We could then link this to our volunteer, or create a new account for them, or whatever was needed. So just some extra little pieces there to whet your appetite. So who wants to have a go? Can I open the chat from here? Let me get back to chat. Why is this so difficult? I'm just going to stop share for one moment. Copy this into the chat. Okay, and if you want to give it a try, that's great. I will hide the email address part, so you don't have to worry about anybody seeing your email address. We'll hide that. So feel free to give it a try, and we can watch these roll in as they happen. So that's quite nice, and I can tell you a few other features in the meantime while we're waiting for those. Yeah, when you get to the credit card one, just 4242, and keep typing that in, and then any date in the future for the expiry, and just any number for the CVC. Please use a real email address for the form, because otherwise you won't get your email notification. But all the rest of the information can be fake, of course. There we go. Actually, one from Jane already. That's great. So you can see that came in just instantly there. And in a couple of minutes, Jane, I assume Jane isn't actually your name, you'll get your notification. But I'll dip into automations really quickly and we'll hop back here in a moment. So let me share my screen again. Okay, we're back. Hopefully you can still see the Airtable here. So there's Jane's record has just come in at the bottom there. Whoa, and that triggered really fast. So you should get yours in a moment. So I'm going to hop into automations and apps, and then we should have time for some more questions. So for automations, this is the automation that I set up that received the information about the credit card. So there are lots of triggers. There are all sorts of different types of triggers here. When a record is created, updated, you can run it on a weekly, daily schedule. We're using something called a webhook here, which is quite an advanced function for those of you more advanced users or wanting to be more advanced users. But there are plenty of also triggers that you can take from integrations with other platforms. So maybe from your Outlook or from your calendar as your trigger event. And then we would have a series of actions. In this case, we're just going to create a new record here. But there are lots of actions that we could take. So if we created a custom event, we'd choose any trigger. And in our action step, we can use this to send an email through Gmail, send a message through Slack, update a Google Sheet, even send a tweet if you wanted to. So this is a hugely powerful automation platform that is native within Airtable and is part of any plan, actually, depending on how many runs you want to use. So just a way of automating some of your work that has been a game changer and a relatively new feature within Airtable. This wasn't possible to do natively 6 months ago, maybe 7 actually. And then there are some other integration platforms called Zapier, which I'll touch on before we finish. But that's kind of a very brief introduction to the automation capability. Then we have something called apps. And we can add an app here. I see Fash has also submitted. So this is like the Google App Store or the Apple App Store, but for anything within Airtable. Very specialized items here. Document, this is the program, the app that I use to create the document. It's actually something that we developed. And we're pretty proud of it. We have a native app in Airtable as well as a Zapier integration. So if you wanted to know more about that in the future, please feel free. We also have a non-profit payment discount as well. So happy to talk to you about that. So there's a load in here that might meet some specific needs that you have. This is one that I really love. It's just a summary, but it can help us create a dashboard. So this is going to give us a summary number, just going to count our number. So say you wanted to keep a track on how many volunteers you have. As well. Okay, and then when if somebody adds another one, you'll see that number change live. But let's add one more. And we also want to keep track of donations. Okay, so we want to get a running total of donations. That's going to be.
And Matt, with the running totals for the dashboard, is there a way to have both number of donations and the amount given side by side?
Yes. Yeah, we could just. Yeah, we could just create another window and have it together and organize it that way. This is just an example of what you could do. So at the moment, we've got volunteers and donations, but we could have number of donations, value of donations today for the month. We can do a load of things with it. Yeah. So I'll just click in a couple more things, and then I think we'll be ready for any more questions that you might have. So this is Stripe. This is the payment processor that I was talking to you about. They also have, I think, a non-profit discount going. Great one to check out. This is what I use to create the document. This is a template within Document. Again, this is our platform that we developed. Other document processors are available, by the way, but we're pretty proud of what this one can do. So these are all variables here, and we just link those up together to create a new document every time a record is run. But we can make this as pretty as we need to be. As I said, design is not my forte. And then finally, we have Zapier. And Zapier is an automation platform, which is probably familiar to a lot of you, but if it's not, it allows you to create triggers and actions. So you would use this where an automation was not available within Airtable natively. So if you wanted to connect to a platform that didn't have an integration with Airtable, you could do it through something like Zapier. So in this case, when a new volunteer submits the form, it triggers a new record in Airtable. We create a document in Document, as per the template I just showed you. We update the record with the attachment itself, and then we send all that off in an email to whoever's sent us the form. And I think that brings me sort of to a conclusion. Let's just see if there's one more. Okay, so I've basically covered all of this now. But Airtable is a highly connected platform. The benefit of it is you can keep it as your single source of truth. So you can import all of your information into Airtable and make it all visible in one place. Whether that's operations, marketing, finance, whatever it might be, there are connections available to help you build what you need. And that can be done through Zapier or through more complex APIs. But all of those options are available to you within the Airtable platform. And I think that's me.
Excellent. There is a question here about integration, and I'm not sure if you're aware because it's a Canadian thing, but if you know if there's an integration with CanadaHelps.org, which would then issue the charitable receipts, and/or an integration or app that would send out the tax receipts in accordance with all of CRA's complex requirements. I I I would expect there's like unless Canada Helps has an API, it probably wouldn't be able to integrate with it. But I think what you probably could do is set up some sort of automation in order to send out receipts from wherever you're sending them from. So if they're coming from, if you've set them up somewhere already, it can probably trigger it and send it, or you can create your own probably using document.
Yeah, you absolutely could. If there's no API, that's going to be hard. If there is an API, it's definitely workable. Any kind of API, but if there's like a certain structure or protocol in place, and the receipt must meet certain criteria and have certain data points, then you could definitely just create a template within Document or within Google Docs or something, and we can then populate that information into that format and then issue that receipt, whether it's for a donation or any other reason.
Excellent. I'm trying to see. I don't think I missed any questions. If I did miss any questions, feel free to pop them again in the chat or come off mute and you can ask Matt yourself.
Yeah.
Hey Matt, I was just wondering if the demo form that you used for the signing up for the volunteering, is that going to be live beyond this training, just in case we wanted to show our team just like the kind of tools available and what's capable in Airtable?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That link I'll leave open, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's Michael just made a great suggestion. If you wanted more powerful reporting, you can link it with Power BI.
Yeah. There's a whole load of other options available to export the information into something like Power BI or
Mm,
Google Data Studio or those sorts of things. If you have the technical nous to do all that, it's all open there for the taking.
mm-hmm. Excellent. I guess last call for any questions. All right, I guess that's looking like it. Matt, thank you so much. That was really insightful and exciting and interesting, and I think we all got a lot of great information out of it.
Well, good. Look, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for inviting me on, and be happy to take any questions. If you wanted to contact me about anything in particular, then I think Sandra, you've got a copy of the presentation to share with whoever wants it if they
Yes,
want to
I
get in
do.
touch.
So feel free to reach out. Matt, I'm trying to remember what your email was again. I was going to type it in the chat for people.
It's Matt at 5x5.co.
Five was spelled out right, or is it the number five?
The spelled version.
5x5.co, right?
Yeah, .co. Yeah.
Okay. So there's my email address. There's Matt's email address. If you want to reach out for anything, you know how to reach us. Otherwise, I'll let you guys have a great Wednesday.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Have a great day.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye now.